together is an incredibly huge, powerful force for success in whatever kind of endeavor there is. Well, someone who is a disruptor in making this happen in the most positive way is my guest, and that's Mehbs Remtulla. He's a former pharmaceutical executive. He was a founder of one of the top healthcare communications companies in Canada. He's an innovation catalyst in so many different ways. He has GEARSHIFTIng, which is disruptive innovation and strategic consultancy that challenges the status quo, asks what if questions, and encourages intelligent risk-taking to come up with creative solutions. And his latest creative solution is What's Next, which is in development, but in development like a rocket right now. And it's a holistic, integrated, curated digital platform that connects transitioners with organizations. What does that mean? Mehbs, define what What's Next is trying to achieve.
Well, What's Next is a social venture. First of all, thank you, Paul, for inviting me to participate in your interview today. What's Next is really, if you like, a holistic ecosystem that we're trying to develop. And what do I mean by that? Given the fact that we're living longer and we're living healthier, we need to find a way to engage ourselves in a purposeful life for the next 20, 30 years that we have left after retirement, the so-called retirement. So how are we going to do that? And much of our research, which has been validated by other organizations like Stanford and many other institutions, basically seems to conclude, as we have, that there are 4 things that need to happen for transitioners, which we define as professionals 50 years plus. What they need are these 4 things. 1, they want to be able to work, and they want to be able to work in a flexible manner that leverages their skill set, not necessarily their profession. So a physician at 68 does not want to necessarily see more patients, but wants to be enrolled in some way helping in the healthcare field, whether it be in their own countries or overseas. And they want to get paid, but they don't want to get paid necessarily the money that they used to make when they were 35 and 40 years old. So they want to work in a flexible manner. They want to be able to leverage the skill sets rather than the professions, and they want to get paid. So that's the first vertical. The second area that has come out strong is that they want to give back. And I don't think this is a North American phenomena. I think this is a human phenomena where we all feel blessed with whatever we have. And anytime we want to, there's an opportunity to help, we want to help. And we've seen this in the COVID crisis. I think some of the best of us that's come through during this crisis. But they want to give back in a meaningful way, in a respectful way. And they want organizations, volunteer organizations, to create an engagement model that creates positive experiences for both parties. The third bubble is one of continuous learning. And many thought leaders, including Chip Conley, Carl Honoré, and others, have shown us that we should be thinking about the life of learning, and the learning aspect is no longer a ladder. In the old days, we went to high school, went to university, we did our masters, and we got a job. Well, learning is a web. It's no longer a ladder. And I think learning is a big part of it. And so these are the 3 key areas that transitions have told us that would make for them a purposeful and engaged life. Having said that, one key element that has come through our research, and now it's being substantiated by others, is that all these activities should be rooted and anchored in community. People want to be feeling inclusive. People want to be feeling that they're talking to people of their type. So this whole idea of community is becoming a very strong element of any endeavor that any one of us takes on. So what's next is mandate is really twofold. One is a mission mandate. The mission being that we want to create a pool of modern elders, as Chip Conley would say, a global pool of modern elders who can add value to society in ways that we haven't thought of, because these are the baby boomers who are far more educated than their parents or grandparents were. They have financially done reasonably well and have a span of 20, 30 years to give yet. So the mission is to create this pool of modern elders, if you like, or transitioners globally that can add value to society. And this is a mission shared by many organizations. Your organization organization, Paul, Chip's organization, and Mark Friedman's organization and other organizations. The project goal is to develop this cohesive, integrated, curated ecosystem that would connect in a two-part marketplace: the transitioners with opportunities for work, giving back, and learning. And those are the organizations we're talking about. And while the giving back and the learning institutions are far ahead in terms of engaging transitioners, the work environment is the one that's most challenging. And we need to break down work into different segments. There's a corporate world, there's a startup world, and then there's the SMEs, the small, medium-sized businesses between. Unfortunately, the corporate world, which is led by many transitioners in the making or have made transitioners, it seems to be a bit stone deaf, if I may use such a strong term. Their attitude is, well, Paul, you turned 65, you have a good pension, I give you a great party on Friday, and I give you a gold watch. What more do you want me to do for you? But they're not interested in what Paul does on the Monday after the Friday. So that's a mission that we all subscribe to, and we need to work hard at it. The small to medium-sized businesses definitely need the experience and the expertise of the transitioner, but they're not quite sure how to engage them. And this is where the intergenerational thought process comes in place. Interestingly enough, the young scaled up businesses, the 10 to $20 million, been in business for 5-7 years and are growing at an exponential rate day after day after day, are the ones where the sweet spot is for transition to engage immediately, because they recognize the value that the transitioners bring. They recognize that getting them at below market rate is an incredible offering, and they are mature enough to be able to engage. And we're talking about 35 and 45-year-olds. So interestingly enough, the millennials we're finding are the ones that are most open to this intergenerational engagement.
So yeah, let's you brought up a whole host of things there, but let's kind of keep running with that. And by the way, I'll say that in my efforts, I've been noticing that too, that when it comes to this phase of life, and looking at it differently than traditional retirement notion has been in the past, I'm finding a lot of Gen Xers, but older millennials are the most interested in it. But also too, I've been hearing from other people in business and in the intergenerational topic that millennials are really looking for, wisdom, advice, and experience. So what would if I were the head of a startup or a small business or even a corporation, and I'm just looking forget the nobility of it, and even forget the older worker nobility of it, why do I want to do this? How is this going to effectuate my bottom line and or my success? What's your argument for that in terms of benefits?
Right. So for the young startup organization that has been in business for 5-7 years and is going through exponential growth, they're looking for the next step in their evolution. So they're looking for help, support from experienced people, either in the industries that they're in or general experience. And for them, the experience and the expertise, the wisdom that they bring to an organization is invaluable. And it's interesting that this group of entrepreneurs see it better than the older folks do. And they're getting these people at below market rates, and they're getting them as gigs. There's no permanent, necessarily a permanent engagement here. So these entrepreneurs, and I volunteer at a incubator here, innovation incubator called Mars Discovery District, where I mentor a handful of young startups in the healthcare field. And I go there every Tuesday, and Tuesday is the best day of my week, at least it was pre-COVID. And I asked one of them the other day, I said, Jonathan, I've been working with you for 8-9 months. And I come here on a Tuesday, we discuss what needs to be done, and I beat you up on things that you haven't done and move you in areas away from where you wanted to go. That can't be much fun. And he said, man, Tuesday is the best day of our week. And I said, excuse me, what am I missing here? And he says, every Tuesday day you bring discipline and focus to my venture that I cannot get from anybody else. And that alone keeps me going from Wednesday to the following Monday. So this was an expression in his words of what the value of a modern elder could be, or of a transition is, that we're bringing experiences from, because we've been through the school of hard knocks, and then, these entrepreneurs will make their own mistakes, but let them not make the mistakes that we make. And we're bringing some discipline and focus. So as Chip would say, we're bringing the emotional intelligence and in turn learning the digital intelligence that they bring to us. So it's a DQ versus EQ equation here. And there's a wonderful transfer. For me, it's the best day because I learned so much from these young guys in terms of ideas and technology and so on and so forth. And we share, our wisdom and experience with them. Now, when it comes to the larger organizations, the messaging is slightly different. If you're going to a large bank or insurance company or a retail outlet or pharmacy chain or whatever, the idea is not to say, let Paul leave your organization on Friday and then hire Mehbs on a Monday for the same job. That's not the message. The message there is quite different. The message is, Paul left your organization. Did you offer him any reduced flexible working opportunities? Paul was with you for 15 years. There is an incredible amount of corporate memory that he carries with him. And he just walked out of the door on Friday. What if you use him to mentor the younger folks in understanding the culture and understanding, the ways this organization works? And could you have offered him a 2-day-a-week opportunity to work from home or whatever? And I find that, again, we don't want to generalize too much, but the few organizations that we've been enrolled with are not thinking about it. And Paul, the irony of the whole situation is that the people making those decisions are about to be transitioners themselves. So these are the 52, 54-year-olds. And you look at them and say, you're going to be in that position in 5 years. And as you know, transition is not happening at 65 anymore. It's happening much earlier. In the Canadian environment, is as early as 50, 52. And I spoke to a bank executive a few weeks ago who was 56, and he says, my training budgets have just gone down over the last 3 years for himself. And I said, why? He said, well, there's a subtle message here that, Joe, we do not see too much value in promoting you in any other positions. And I think this is now, how is your cottage building going on up in the north part of Toronto? And how is a house in Florida coming up? And, those are the kind of conversations happening. The guy's 56, young by all accounts.
Well, it is stunning. It's stunning how short-sighted the assumptions and presumptions and stereotypes are of when we're done, like 65, you're done. That was the case back in the 1935, not anymore. And because we have not only so many years ahead of us, but so many healthy years ahead of us and people wanting to be relevant and needing it. It's a win-win situation. And you're right, it's all about the young talents. And you can understand the economics of it because, yes, healthcare can be more expensive for the older worker. But quite frankly, I know and my doctor says, I'm 25 years younger in my health than my chronological age, and I'm in better shape than most of his patients of that age. So some of these are false presumptions. And so I want to go back to the other thing too, that when you talk about employment, that there are all these new manifestations of, like you said, part-time or working on a special project. But with what's next, and I want you to kind of explain how this would work from both ends of the pipeline, those of us who might make a contribution or a company or startup that might want it. It's also bringing in people on like a specific need basis that maybe you not only need their experience, but their particular talent and skill set, and somebody to be in the room at the table who can offer that steady hand on the tiller, however you want to characterize it, and not have to hire them as a full-time employee and pay them $300,000 a year, $100,000 a year, plus all their insurance and everything. So tell me how it works.
Right. So the ecosystem that we're trying to build is based on this two-sided marketplace. So let's paint a scenario. So I asked Paul if he would like to join the community of what's next. And he says, yeah, tell me more about the community. And the community is about engagement, interactions, and basically getting to know each other and helping each other. It's all about paying forward, and it's about sharing knowledge, sharing experience, expertise, and networking. Now, so Paul decides that he's going to join the community, and he puts on a profile. Your profile that we're asking you to put together is a holistic profile. So what do I mean by that? Yes, of course, we want to know which university you went to and how many years of experience you had in the production field and whatever. But we want to know Paul as a human being, the likes, dislikes that you have, your hobbies, the causes that you support, things that you're passionate about. So we want to understand you from a kind of psychographic viewpoint. So if we have a good profile of Paul, and then we would do the same thing on the organizational side, the other side, which is the workplace, potential employers, non-profit organizations, and the learning institutions. And so on a Tuesday, one day when you're 72 years old, you may ping on your mobile device to say, I've got a few months here. I'm kind of not too busy. I'd like to get engaged in some way. And you say, I'm interested in helping some youth in understanding communications and media. Let's say that's the passion of yours. And all of a sudden, the University of Minnesota or some place in New York has an opening saying, we're looking at helping this bunch of high school kids or young university students understand communication and media and the role of media in social justice or whatever the case may be. And it doesn't pay that much. It probably pay you $500 for the week or whatever. And you say, this would be kind of interesting thing for me to get engaged in. And you reach out to them. So that's you reaching out to an organization. Likewise, let's say the Sloan Kettering Center in New York is looking for people to help with their hospice. And they're looking for mature people. And your profile comes up, so they're looking for people, and your profile comes up and it says, Paul had been involved in this and that, God forbid that, his family had a history of, a lot of breast cancers or whatever the case may be, but he's been around people that unfortunately have not done well. And they ping you and they say, Paul, given your background, we have a need of some mature people to help grieving parents of young children who have these terrible diseases. And would you be able to commit 5 hours a month for the next 12 months for this project? And you say, that's a good one to give to. So you see how the two sides are connecting, and this will all be done using AI and machine learning and whatever, so that as you do your assignments, and we're getting a better profile of what Paul is all about in the organizations. And you may say, Sloan Kettering, my grandmother had a bad experience. That's not an organization I want to be part of. Fine. So it's not prescriptive. Or you may say, the next 3 months are terrific. My wife is away on a sabbatical in Italy, and I'm by myself. And I'd like to learn something about the Israel-Palestinian conflict. And, I want to do it during the daytime. And where in my neighborhood can I go for something along those lines between 10 and 3 in the afternoon, Monday to Friday. And suddenly an institution, 5 kilometers from your house pops up as, they're doing a special event. So this is the way that the marketplace could work. Does that make sense?
And in terms of a strictly business enterprise, tell me how accurate this is. So if I have a startup and my team is all very young, and it's like, boy, on the kind of finance side, I need somebody that's got a deeper background, or on production. I need somebody who's got more of a network and more been there, done that, or I need to get financing. So I need somebody, like you, that's gone after financing and knows how to do it. So I'd be able to, because you talked about more altruistic pursuits, but this can also be very strictly business. The same thing on the big corporate side. I've got a team that's stuck on an engineering issue. I need somebody who's worked through big hurdles before and knows how to do it by virtue of experience. Are those accurate potentials?
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. And yes, the startup would say, I'm looking for somebody with HR, human resources, talent management experiences in the retail industry. and I need them for 3 months to do X, Y, and Z. They go onto the platform and 6 people show up and they look at the profile and say, yeah, it was retail, but it wasn't kind of, this retail, but this one is better. Or they may pick 6 people and say, let me engage in a phone call for 20 minutes and see how the vibe is, how the culture is. And the candidate of the 6 candidates, maybe only 2 are available the week that you want them to hire. But that's essentially how it works. Yeah.
And so what you're really kind of talking about here is it's kind of as you phrased it in a previous conversation we had, upper echelon gig worker, which seems to make gargantuan business sense. You're not hiring a consultant, you're not hiring somebody full-time, which requires a whole different vetting process, huge costs. You're able to plug somebody in for a particular need, a particular project for a finite amount of time, correct?
Right, absolutely.
And so that just seems to make a lot of business sense. I mean, it's obvious the sense that it makes for those professionals who have become a part of this. What do you think it's going to take to make what's next really launch and take off and grab hold? It's one of those concepts that makes so much common practical sense, could be a real success factor for people, but therefore it's also the kind of thing in my superstitious nature that it's like, is it going to be the tree that falls in the forest and nobody, is there to hear it? What's it going to take for this thing to get traction?
Yeah, I think the challenge, quite honestly, and we enrolled in a pilot and we had great learning. I think the key elements for success are as follows. Number one, what's next needs to have a pool of transitioners available when the businesses need them. What do I mean by that? When a startup is looking for an HR person, they're looking for that HR person this afternoon, not in 3 weeks. And this is why we're not a recruitment agency. So, because the needs of startups and businesses are immediate. Very few organizations plan a year ahead and say, okay, in 2022, we're going to need this, and 2023, we're going to need this. No, startups are nimble, entrepreneurial-driven organizations. So they need people now. So our challenge is to have a pool of transitioners that fall into the categories. Well, first, we need to have enough transitioners. Number two, we need to have transitioners in the categories that the startups and these businesses are most likely to need. So if I had 600 photographers in my database, that's very nice, Paul, but I don't think there's a need for 600 photographers this afternoon. So we've identified 6 or 7 areas, including finance, business development, operations, human resources, talent management, technology, and others, as being the sort of the core areas where transition with those skill sets will be in the highest demand. And number 3, we need to have vetted these people, because what's next, brand culture, is one of being holistic and authentic. So if we have a bunch of people in our community that are, inflexible and, oh, well, Paul, I can do this gig, but so long as it's between March and April and from 9 in the morning to 11:30 because I'm picking up my grandkids at 12 o'clock and then, I go to Florida between November and April. Well, do you really want to work, kiddo? And that's the challenge that we face. So we need to make sure that our transitional base is one that is understanding and appropriate for the culture that we are about to engage them in. And not every transitioner is going to adapt to a startup culture, which may not be as structured as you would want it. So if you come from a banking organization where everything is prescribed in a handbook, you may not do well. So this is the balancing act we need to do. And likewise, the organizations have to understand that these are transitions with a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom, and they need to be engaged in a meaningful and respectful way. So asking them to come at a 7:30 morning meeting, traveling 57 kilometers from their home, may not be the kind of thing that they should be asking for. So I think there's a defining role on both parts, and then having the right people at the right place doing the right thing. Sounds simple, but it's an ambitious goal.
Are you seeing, is this global? Is this North American? Is it what?
Well, interesting you said that, because when we started the project 18 months ago, we, in our business mind, says very much that we're going to start with the greater Toronto area, population of about 5-6 million. Then we'll go to the province called Ontario. Then we'll go to Canada, and then we'll go to the United States. And this was a 5-year plan. Well, guess what? 3 months ago, it all got thrown out of the window because we had an opportunity to place IT specialists from a little suburb in Toronto with an organization in Ireland. This was a high-touch, low-tech version of it. So I think by default, we've gone global. And on our forums that we had with Carl Honoré and Chip Conley last week, about 15-20% of our attendees are from the US. We had a handful from Europe, including the UK, France, Germany, and Switzerland. And we had 4 people from South Africa. And I think it just goes on to show that with good technology and a mindful way of working with organizations, work can be done remotely, as we've been forced to. And so there are no boundaries anymore. The key point being...
Oh, please go ahead.
No, I think the key challenge for us and what keeps me awake at night is how do you promote the culture and the brand essence of what's next on a scale-up mode. And when you look at communities like the Rotary clubs and the Lions clubs and whatever, who over years and years and years have been able to do that. If you go to a Rotary club in Kenya, it has the same ethic and the same brand essence as the Rotary club in New York. And how do we do that? And I think that's the exciting opportunity and the challenge.
Well, it is such an exciting prospect. Overarchingly, the trend toward intergenerational, too many syllables, we got to find a catchier name for it. The intergenerational workforce, and in this new way that doesn't necessarily require employment, in the big concept of it, how critical is it, both in terms of need and in terms of the plus side of it being a potential success factor for any kind of endeavor, to have that mix of older learning from younger, younger learning from older, and together teaming?
Well, Paul, I mean, the evidence is there. There are countless number of studies now that show that when you have a diversity of age, of gender, of race, of mindset, when you go back to the days when IDEO, the innovation company that was set up in Palo Alto many, many years ago, trying to solve a problem to design a better cart for a grocery chain in the United States included sociologists, biologists, engineers, and researchers. And in those days, we didn't understand what on earth is a sociologist doing in designing a better cart for a grocery chain in the United States. So the diversity of talent has been proven to be effective. And I just read a report last week. They show that as you add different levels of diversity, from gender, from race to socioeconomic backgrounds to educational backgrounds, and now age, your decision-making process improves almost exponentially. So the idea that an intergenerational team performs better has been proven. So the question that I keep on asking people is that where is the inertia coming from? And I think the inertia, from what I can gather, is rooted in a number of areas. One is large corporations, by definition, are difficult to move on any aspect of things. Number two, we don't have enough ambassadors and champions in the corporate world, and it's changing. But the UK has actually done a far better job than we have in North America. We need ambassadors and champions to basically promote this. And thirdly, something that I think the events of the last week or two in the United States have really highlighted an opportunity.
And this is with the protests for Black Lives Matters and such.
Yes, Black Lives Matters. I think we need to mobilize the transitional community globally and basically say to Paul, what are you doing today to fight ageism, to promote intergenerational societies, and to be learning and to be improving rather than proving, and all this wonderful stuff, right? And at the end of the day, if you're an HR, vice president of HR at a bank, you have the power to influence your organization. And by that, you'll influence your industry. And by that, you'll influence your society. And I think for too long, as transitioners, as modern elders, as to use Chip's word, we've kind of sat back and said, well, Paul and his organization will help us find some jobs that are appropriate for us. And, XYZ is going to help us find some volunteering opportunities. But if you're at Mount Sinai Hospital, find a way to, influence your organization into creating, volunteering opportunities for transition. Likewise, if you're in an educational establishment, influence your organization to have a program for 50+ individuals, which might happen during the daytime rather than at night. So I think each one of us needs to now start taking ownership of the situation and say, what can I do today to further the cause, assuming that you believe that intergenerational society is a much more stronger, powerful, and inclusive society that will come up with better solutions. And I think I have a lot of hope in the generations, behind us, because they get it. They need some tools, and they need ambassadors and leaders. And I think leaders in our communities, whether it be in the work communities, in the not-for-profit volunteering communities, or in the educational communities, we need to basically take charge, mobilize ourselves, collaborate as best as we can, and move the mission forward. And when the mission moves forward, all the projects associated with them move forward.
We can be a leader at all levels, and being that, for instance, HR person or whomever, being able to bring someone who's got this huge track record, has gone through the vetting process that you're talking about with what's next, could make you a real hero too. And I'll add to the fact that I'm a big believer in diversity and inclusion, which many businesses consider to be a success factor, where you had these diverse groups of people on teams and such. As one consultant said, I don't need more of me. But the amazing thing is you never hear age mentioned. It's not supposed to be quotas, but it's, ethnicity and gender and where you grew up and such. But the age factor to me is a major ingredient. So if I'm interested in this, for those people who are interested in knowing more, or maybe becoming a part of it at either end of the funnel, either as somebody to be listed and be available, or a company or a startup or an enterprise, what should they do? How can they get involved with you?
They can get the numerous levels. We have a desire. I won't call it a mission yet, but it may become a mission, that what's next will be run by volunteer transitioners. And because of the social venture, what stops us, from engaging these transitioners who have amazing backgrounds to be part of our organization? So I hope if we ever have an HR manager, it'll be a transitioner volunteering at what's next. If it's a financial person we need, it'll be a transition volunteering to our place. So you can get involved in helping us shape the community. And we need people like that to help us shape the community, because at the end of the day, it will be what the community wishes it to be. It's not a directive from Mehbs Remtulla as to what the community needs to be. That's number one. Number two, we want to build this community of transitioners on a global level. So I would love to be able to say to some potential organization one day, I have 5,000 transition members in my community, of which 600 are financial people, 200 are HR experts, 150 of them are business development experts, and X number are technology people. Pick, what would you like today, and be able to engage them that way. So I think there are many roles, and I also, want these people to become ambassadors and champions if they believe in this, And Paul, the interesting about ageism, which was different with gender, diversity, is that age is global, and actually it is, how would I put it? It's neutral in so many ways, because Black and white people get old, rich and poor people get old. People in Kenya get old, people in Haiti get old, and people in Toronto get old, and people in New York get old. So it's one of those isms that is actually quite unique.
It happens to all of us. It happens to
Yeah,
all,
yeah,
you know, God willing, we all get older and we all want to be relevant no
exactly,
matter what our age.
exactly. So I think the opportunity is tremendous, and this is what energizes me every day. That hopefully in my lifetime, if what's next can be nothing else than a catalyst for this conversation and for this change, I'd be happy. But I'm looking for the gold prize, if this was an Olympic sport, of creating a platform that people can leverage, use, and maybe part of, that grows on a global level. And hopefully we'll have chapters in the US and chapters in Singapore and chapters in Japan, and learn from each other. And then having partners like the Chip Coney's Modern Elder Academy and Stanford's Center for Longevity and others in the UK and in Canada. I think we can learn from each other and make this movement a real one. And as boomers, we've defined many things over the last 60 years, and we're going to redefine living engaged in a purposeful life.
What is the best way for, if people are interested, what's the best way to get in touch with you all?
I have my email address at Remtulla at GEARSHIFTING.com, which you can post. There's my phone number, and very soon, we're a bit late with this, but very soon we'll have a website that will give you some aspects of our mission, vision, and values, and and just help us create a community that is holistic in nature, that's that's mutually respectful, and that is actually helping each other. And this is what it's all about.
Well, wonderful. And I will put your email down in the notes below so that people can get in touch with you, because I think this is a brilliant endeavor. I think it makes a lot of sense for everyone, not just people who are older and are looking to stay engaged and make a contribution and get compensated for it, which is reasonable. You get what you pay for, but can be just a tremendous help to so many businesses. So we will be staying in touch, and I will be keeping people updated on how y'all are progressing. So Mehbs, thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. Always a pleasure.